So it had all the sound and fury, but did it have the substance? That's one of the things that the Congress will possibly use as a counter-attack. But let's go straight into our big face-off today. Syed Zafarul Islam's national spokesperson of the BJP, Ikram Sandhu, spokesperson of the Congress. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being with me on the news track. Ikram Sandhu, starting with you, you've heard the highlights of what Amit Shah has basically said. He was very combative, which is to be expected from Amit Shah. But he says that the Congress has been full of bluster, low on substance, and basically trying to do what it did in 2019, which is make a series of insinuations in the hope that something sticks in people's minds and that the government gets a little nervous. He has basically challenged the Congress party to take this entire issue to court.
Good evening, Shiv. Good evening, Zafarji, and a very good evening to all your viewers. Now, this is really, bluster is all that we can get from this government. And I'll use a term that our Honorable Home Minister popularized, chronology to samjhiye aap. Now, since 2014, we have been talking that this is a suit-boot ki sarkar. And there is a nexus and an evil nexus between corporates and this government led by Mr. Modi. And we were always said that Congress though has taken a swirl towards the left. It is anti-business and Congress.
But Ikram, answer the question I'm asking you because we have limited time. I'm saying Amit Shah is saying, since you're trying to get into details and make allegations of a detailed financial nature, why don't you take this to court? He's daring you to take this to court. Give me a categorical answer. Will the Congress take this to court or not? And if not, why not?
Shiv, just give me 2 minutes, because it's very important for your viewers to understand it all.
What you're saying right now, Ikram, has already been said by Rahul Gandhi in Parliament. Our viewers have heard it.
Okay, so now the chicken has come home to roost, and the only thing that they're doing is they're deflecting. Now, who will come up with proof? Proofs have come out. Hindenburg has put it on record that there are shell companies that are have invested into Adani Enterprises. There are 6 shell companies which have an address in one building in Abu Dhabi, and money has been routed through Mauritius. Now, will Congress send a delegation to Mauritius and understand whose money it is?
So why don't you go to court?
Do it.
Why don't you go to court? It's a simple question. It's not a loaded question. In reality, why don't you go to court? Let the court order a court-monitored investigation if there is enough evidence.
Great. So therefore, that is what we want to bring to the attention of the public of India. That this is where this current dispensation has brought the country. That an opposition party has to go to court for a basic thing. So they always talk about Bofors. They talk about 2G. What happened?
Okay.
A JPC was announced there, CBI investigated it, CBI filed a charge sheet, the cases went on that, and the courts exonerated everybody. That is how any civilized democracy works. The answer is that you go to court.
Syed Zafarul Islam, respond. The Congress is saying that Amit Shah's words are all bluster and no substance, and that this is only a diversionary tactic. It is still very much on the table, the allegations that they're making, but they say that they may not go to court just yet. It's a possibility, but may not be just yet. Syed.
See, Shiv, you just see their conduct not in this session, but all the previous sessions. They always have something or the other to disrupt the parliament. Their irresponsible behavior and conduct is not known to people because they just want to disrupt the parliament and be seen on the television channel and the newspaper that they are disrupting the parliament, and they feel that they will get support from the people of India. People of India definitely want parliamentarians to transact business and pass the legislation and bill which is important for the people and for the nation. Unfortunately, the opposition bench have not understood the expectation, what is the expectation of the people and the expectation of deliverables from the parliamentarian.
Okay.
They haven't understood. They feel that the people only want them to disrupt the parliament, and that's what they are doing. But we are a responsible party, responsible government. We want to engage with them for everything. In the Business Advisory Committee, they must discuss. Find a middle ground for discussion, and if there is a meeting of mind, then, and often there is a meeting of mind, yet when they go back to the floor, they start disrupting the parliament instead of what the agreement was in the BSc committee. All I'm requesting that even if you do not want to engage us, or you do not want to discuss the subject on the floor of the parliament, and if you just want to disrupt the parliament, so better go to the court. That's what the honourable
Ikram, that is a look, Ikram, it is increasingly
at least court will listen
Ikram, the perception, like very much like during the Rafale campaign in 2019, is that there is a lot of innuendo and no substance. There is no, quote unquote smoking gun or money trail to link any of the allegations that are being wildly thrown about. Yes, there is a Hindenburg report. It is a company that has its own demons in the United States. That's a separate issue. But their action has been taken here. The RBI has taken action. The Security and Exchange Board of India are monitoring things at this point of time. But the Congress appears to be hell-bent on establishing some link between Narendra Modi and Gautam Adani. And you're saying establish a joint parliamentary committee investigation for that. The government is simply saying, we can't do that because we deny it completely. Go to a court, and if a court says you have to have this kind of investigation, they'll do it. What's wrong with that?
Shiv, you are such a senior journalist. Tell me once in our history where the court has directed parliament to have a JPC.
Not a JPC. It doesn't need to be a JPC. They can order a court-monitored probe.
You said, now go to court and they will say that Parliament is a sacrosanct institution, which is an institution in itself, and even Supreme Court cannot dictate terms to it. So it is a completely fallacious argument that you go to the court and the court will direct for a JPC. Now, what is a JPC? A JPC is that parliamentarians who are answerable to the people, they get together, and there also BJP will have a majority because they are the majority.
But Ikram, the government is saying there is not enough substance to what you're saying. They're saying this is innuendo. It sounds like political frustration by Rahul Gandhi, like during the Rafale thing, and therefore it is not substantial enough to establish a JPC, is what they're saying. They're saying it is born from frustration rather than facts, is what the government says.
Shiv, I'll give you a cricketing analogy and you'll get it. The government is the batsman. It has been hit plumb in front of the wicket, and the government has the power whether it can go for a TV review. And the government says, no, there is nothing. There's no substance in this appeal, therefore I am not out. Okay. That is how the thing is working out. If you are not plumb in front of the wicket, go for the referee. If everything is right,
Syed, okay. Since a cricketing analogy has been used, Syed, answer that. Because the people, the Congress will continue to ask it in that way, which is that what do you have to hide? Why are you saying no to a JPC is the question that will be repeatedly asked, and now it's being asked after Amit Shah's interview as well. Syed.
See, it's a very weak argument. You have to understand the intent and the motive of the opposition. Opposition doesn't want to discuss anything. This JPC is also something it is only for disrupting the parliament. If a JPC will happen, then they will pick up something else. So their intention is, you have to understand that their intention is not good. Their intention is to only to disrupt the parliament, and no business needs to be transacted. That is something which they want to do. They want to paralyze the democratically elected representatives, whatever their responsibility is there to discharge as a parliamentarian. They want to paralyze the entire process.
Okay.
Which is very unfair on the part of
So that means it comes down to a trust deficit,
especially Congress party, because Congress party is behaving. Secondly, what is more important, they do not trust the government. They do not trust their own people, but they will always trust something which has appeared in Global Times, which has appeared in New York Times, which has appeared in Hindenburg report. And what nonsense! Okay. It is a regulatory authority, regulatory bodies. They are doing their job. Okay. They take cognizance of all such things, and they act swiftly without any interference from the government. So you must understand that there are institutions which have been set to, as a regulatory body, to look after and act upon immediately. And even that assurance has come from the finance minister that all the regulators which needs to examine this subject are being done by them. So what is the problem with them? They do not want to trust their own government, does not want to
Ikram,
trust the
Ikram, the
institutions,
allegation is,
but they want to trust a small
I
50
think
member,
most people who've been watching parliamentary
company
proceedings and
handlebars,
this entire
they will
face-off
trust
can
that.
see that this is about a trust deficit. At the end of the day, no matter where this springs from, whether it springs from the right impulses or not, the trust deficit between your party and the ruling party right now is at an all-time low. And therefore, they don't believe that you have any standing to demand a JPC.
Well, they can say that. You know, that is the only thing this government can do. Now, I'll just raise 3 points here. Zafar Bhai has said that a foreign agency, Hindenburg, has raised this issue. Therefore, there's no loci standing for anybody to raise that issue here. I will take Mr. Zafar Iqbal 35 years back.
Islam, yeah.
Who raised the Bofors issue? It was the Swedish radio which for the first time broadcasted it. Did Mr. Rajiv Gandhi or anybody in Congress at that time say that Swedish radio to ji ek bahar ki organization hai, why should any action be taken on that? JPC was set up and the Supreme Court has exonerated everybody in that case. But our Prime Minister still talks about Bofors in the Parliament, when in 2012 the final nail in that lie was stuck when the Supreme Court finally said that no kickbacks was paid and there was no wrongdoings in Bofors.
But
that the Congress has.
But Ikram, with respect, in that case, Ikram, in that case, in the case of Bofors, and you also talked about 2G, you know, we do know where those cases ended up, but they started with something substantial. I am not saying the Hindenburg report is not substantial. It certainly is, which is why the agencies here are taking action. SEBI, RBI, you know, they've been delisted from various indexes, etc. All that is happening. You are asking for a JPC about a personal, you know, beneficial relationship between Narendra Modi and Gautam Adani. That appears to be insubstantial. My question to you, actually, to bring this to a close, actually, Ikram, is... see, the BJP has already had its say through the Home Minister, so I'll end with you, Ikram, which is that if you're up against a wall, as far as the JPC demand is concerned, why don't you go to court? I'm seriously saying, you know, if the court orders some kind of investigation, wouldn't that be a victory for you? And I'm not saying JPC.
Shiv, thank you. Just give me 1 minute and I'll just clarify all of this. Number one, there is a Niti Aayog note and there is a Ministry of Commerce note that when in 2019, 30 airports were being, privatized, that not more than 2 should be given to a party because it might lead to a monopoly.
Okay.
Those notes, no cognizance was taken of that and 6 airports were given. Now that Niti Aayog note, that Ministry of Commerce note is on record. When the JPC happens, these questions will be asked. How did this happen? Why
they can be asked even in a court-monitored probe, is my question, Ikram.
Look, Shiv, the problem is that if in the end opposition has to do everything, of course that's the last resort. If nothing, if this government is as obdurate as it always is, and it does nothing, then of course we'll go to court.
Okay, we are out of time.
When we call ourselves the mother of democracy and the cradle of democracy, then the least you expect from this government is at least do the basics that a ruling party should do.
We'll leave it there for the moment. The fallout of the Amit Shah interview will still be felt, I'm sure, for the rest of this week. But we'll end it here and continue to track the story very closely. Syed and Ikram, thank you very much for being with me here on News Track.